remarks, let's get over to our political analyst right now. And Jeff Link, I'm just curious. We just heard the governor talk about her conservative agenda. We heard her talk about the best is yet to come. In the beginning of her remarks, she said, we're all Iowans and we're all in this together. Now, given what her administration and the Republican-led legislature has done, are we indeed all Iowans, and are we indeed all in this together?
Well, I do think that was a gracious speech, and I'm glad that she acknowledged her opponent. I think that's a good step forward. I think one of the things that she had the opportunity to do in this election, both for herself and for the Republican legislators that she campaigned for, was to really talk about what's going to be on this agenda starting in January. And while we heard the best is yet to come, we don't know exactly what that is. So that's, I think, what a lot of people would like to know, like where is this Republican governor and the Republican legislature gonna take us in January?
Dennis, did you get the sense that this was an effort to bring all Iowans under one tent here, or no, not really?
Well, if it was, when she did the gracious statement that Jeff referred to toward Deidre DeJear, you would have to have had double the response to make it a half-hearted response on the part of the people in the room there. There was not much of a reaction at all in that regard. I think, you know, a lot of people thought that well-produced ending ad that the governor aired did not include a lot of people in Iowa in terms of the focus on the rural aspect of Iowa, the Christian aspect of Iowa. So if she wants to say, yes, we're all Iowans, she's got to do more than simply take rural and small town Iowa as her base.
Okay, and David Oman, just curious, the governor and the legislature have said that they want to cut taxes some more. Does the law of diminishing returns eventually kick in on reducing taxes?
Well, Steve, the law that the tax work that's been done the last couple of years has some triggers involved with if the revenue stays strong, and who knows what the national economy will be the next 12 months. We may be up and down a little bit. But if it stays strong, the cash comes in. They made a decision to not overtax, but to cut the taxes and do other quality of life work, still fund education, and make the state a place that people want to stay in when they retire and perhaps move to. Look, our biggest challenge as a state is can we grow? Can we grow? What do we need to do to grow? We've checked some of the boxes on the economic competitiveness side. We've got to do some other things to grow this state. We are, frankly, one of the slowest growing states in the country the last 100 years. I think the governor knows that. I know she knows that. And I think if she can work across party lines on that front, how do we grow Iowa? People will come along and help her. I want to say one other thing. I was remembering today the late Ed Campbell. We all remember Ed. He was the Democratic Party chair many years ago. I'm sure Bonnie's watching somewhere. Bonnie, we love you. In 1978, Ed Campbell, and he was a tough guy, tough chair, he said, I would trade the Senate seat. They were trying to re-elect a Democrat. I'd trade that senator, I'd trade all the Congress people, I'd trade the legislature if we could win the governor's office. Because that's how powerful Ed thought the governor's office is. The governor has the ability to lead, to persuade, to cajole, to bring people of both parties along. I hope she takes advantage of it.
And Kathy, the governor also said, aren't you glad you live in the freedom-loving state of Iowa? And here's to all the freedom-loving candidates to come. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I think that the governor, that was one line that we did hear a lot during the campaign. The governor ran in a lot of ways, a national message in her campaign. She ran not really so much against Deidre DeJear, she ran against Joe Biden and talked about, you know, the problems of inflation, talking about, you know, the shutdown from COVID, all of those types of things. And, you know, I think, I sort of agree with what Dennis said. We didn't hear a whole lot of what Governor Reynolds really wants to do with another term. We know she wants to cut taxes, and she has said that she leans toward personal income taxes, but that's, you know, I think that that's kind of up in the air. The tax cuts that are on the books haven't fully taken effect. She says that she is standing up for pro-life, but she has not said she wants to pass new laws. She wants to get the laws that are previously passed on the books through the courts. And she's also said that she wants to continue to work to build up private schools by transferring money through tuition grants from the public schools to the private schools. That was one issue that I heard a lot about when I talked to voters. They were concerned about the effect on public schools. So we know she wants to do those three things. Beyond that, we don't know.